What if Obi Wan found Anakin without manipulating Padmé? How would that have changed things? We pick up with Obi Wan arriving at Padmé's apartment to find out where Anakin is. Let's begin. The galactic speeder settled onto Padmé's veranda, its cockpit opening with a soft hiss. A hooded figure emerged. The apartment's security system registered the unauthorized presence, its alert frequencies resonating through the transparent steel panels. C-3PO's servo motors accelerated as he navigated toward the security curtain where the figure had stopped. "Hello, might I help you?" The protocol droid's vocabulator cycled through its recognition protocols. "Oh, it's you, Master Kenobi. Come in, quickly." The security curtain's energy field dissipated with a subtle crackle as Obi-Wan lowered his hood. The alarms ceased their modulation, leaving only the distant hum of Coruscant's endless traffic lanes. "Has Anakin been here?" "Yes, right after the attack on the Jedi Temple." C-3PO's optical sensors adjusted their focus, his internal processors calculating the appropriate level of disclosure. "If I might mention, I overheard him telling Senator Amidala he was traveling to the Mustafar system. His behavioral patterns indicated significant distress." The soft rustle of fabric drew their attention to the stairs. Padmé stood at the top landing, her robe gathered close. "Master Kenobi," Padmé said, relief clear in her voice. "Padmé," Obi-Wan replied, his voice steady but grim. The Force flowed around him like a targeting computer mapping trajectories, each potential course branching through possibility space. The path that would shield Padmé from harm glowed clearest among them. "I came to ensure Anakin's safety. These are dangerous times for the Jedi." The half-truth tasted bitter, but it would protect her better than honesty. Morning light spilled across the veranda, illuminating Padmé's face as she stepped forward. Her diplomatic training showed in how she held herself, but couldn't quite conceal her deeper concerns. She spoke of the Senate's continued existence, of possibilities and solutions, her voice carrying echoes of countless successful negotiations. But this wasn't a matter for Senate protocols. When she mentioned hopes for the Republic's survival, Obi-Wan countered with gentle reality. His quiet words about the Sith's return drew a sharp breath from her. She knew of their ancient influence, but not their present command of the galaxy. Still, he kept the darkest truths about Anakin to himself. Padmé spoke of emergency powers and constitutional process, her mind already working through political solutions. But Obi-Wan saw the futility of such thoughts. He advised caution instead, suggesting she work within the Empire's framework while remembering the lessons of history. "Nothing lasts forever, Padmé," he reminded her. "Not republics, not empires, and oppressive systems fall even faster. The Force itself teaches this truth." Padmé's final words faded into the morning air as Obi-Wan returned to his speeder. C-3PO had given him Anakin's location freely. No need to guide Padmé toward Mustafar as a tracker might use bait to draw prey. The old diplomatic arts of suggestion and misdirection would have worked, perhaps too well. She would have followed Anakin anywhere if properly motivated by concern. The nav computer chimed its readiness as he settled into the cockpit. This confrontation would be between master and apprentice alone. The mining facility's holoprojector cast Palpatine's image in flickering blue across the mining complex's command center. Bodies of the Separatist leadership lay scattered across the facility's floor, their cooling forms registering as diminishing heat signatures on the environmental monitors. "The Separatists are taken care of, my master." "It is finished then. You have restored peace and justice to the galaxy. You have done well, Lord Vader." Palpatine's tone shifted to one of command. "Send a message to the ships of the Trade Federation. Tell them the Separatist leaders have been wiped out. Grievous and Dooku have been destroyed. All droid units must shut down immediately." The Emperor's image dissolved into static. As Anakin reached for the facility's communication array, the proximity sensors registered an approaching vessel. The ship's profile appeared on the tracking display. Unknown configuration, non-Trade Federation design. Its trajectory suggested familiarity with military approach vectors. He left the command center, his steps echoing through corridors where the Separatist leadership had made their final calculations. The landing platform's environmental systems cycled endless streams of coolant vapor, a futile defense against Mustafar's climate. The shuttle touched down, its repulsors dispersing the vapor in concentric patterns. Anakin watched from the facility's entrance as the boarding ramp extended. Obi-Wan emerged, each step carrying the burden of what he'd witnessed in the temple. Their eyes met across the platform. Rising steam transformed the space between them into a shifting holomap of possibilities. "I'm not surprised you found me," Anakin said. His tone carried the same measured calculation he'd once used during their shared diplomatic missions. "I saw the security recordings, Anakin." Obi-Wan's voice contained none of its usual diplomatic refinement. Younglings, children, in the council chamber. Anakin's expression remained as controlled as a droid's command protocols. They were being trained to preserve a corrupt order. They were younglings, Anakin. The words emerged before Obi Wan could modulate them. Every death served a purpose, Master. The Republic, the Empire now, required action to restore peace. Anakin's words emerged with the precision of pre-programmed coordinates. Peace? Obi-Wan's gaze swept across the mining facility's durasteel angles. Is that what you call this? Palpatine orchestrated every crisis of the past decade. The Trade Federation's blockade of Naboo, the Separatist movement, each attempt on Senator Amidala's life. He manipulated us all. Something recalibrated behind Anakin's eyes, like a targeting system acquiring new parameters. Palpatine won't be a problem much longer. What do you mean? The Sith Master's usefulness diminishes by the hour. Anakin's mechanical hand opened and closed, servos whirring with controlled tension. Soon, I'll deal with him myself. You plan to overthrow him. Obi-Wan's mind tracked through the implications, like a nav computer plotting hyperspace vectors. The galaxy requires order, Master. Real order, not Palpatine's theatrical manipulations. Anakin's presence in the Force pulsed with absolute conviction. Join me. Together we can implement actual reforms, not empty Senate proclamations. Reform? Obi-Wan's fingers traced the edge of his lightsaber. Tell that to the younglings who trusted you. Tell that to Master Sindralig, who taught you how to hold your first training saber. The past must be eliminated for the future to emerge, Anakin said, his tone cold, almost rehearsed, like something he'd absorbed from Palpatine. Even you must see that the Jedi's time has ended. Then my time ends with them. Obi-Wan felt each possibility branching before him, like parallel circuits. You know I can't join you, Anakin. I will do what I must. Will you? Anakin turned to face him fully, his stance reconfiguring like a weapon system coming online. We could fight here, Master. One of us might die. Or you could let me complete what the Jedi Council never could, destroying the Sith Lord who has torn the galaxy apart. Obi-Wan's hand hovered near his lightsaber, fingers calibrating distance and response time. Yoda has gone to confront him. Anakin's lips curved slightly, his eyes calculating, as if he had already run the outcome through 100 simulations. And you know how that will end. The Force has shown me my path. This is my destiny, not Yoda's. Obi-Wan adjusted his position, calculating angles of approach across the landing platform. His former apprentice had become a quantum uncertainty, simultaneously the galaxy's greatest threat, and perhaps its last hope against Palpatine. Anakin's boots clicked against the durasteel as he took measured steps toward his speeder. Each movement followed precise geometries, like a training exercise they might have shared in another lifetime. R2-D2's dome rotated, the astromech's sensors tracking both figures. Obi-Wan advanced with the deliberate pace of a diplomat entering contested negotiations. His hand found his lightsaber, fingers connecting with familiar activation plates. Anakin's mechanical hand lifted with engineer's precision. The Force pulse launched Obi-Wan across the facility's expanse, his trajectory carrying him over processing vats and collection arrays until he impacted against the far structure's support beams. By the time Obi-Wan reoriented himself, Anakin's shuttle had vanished among the mining facility's collection towers. The last glimpse showed R2 secure in the droid socket, the astromech's dome rotating to track their trajectory. His return to the platform carried none of the urgency that had brought him to Mustafar. Obi-Wan remained on the Clegor Core mining facility's platform, the durasteel conducting Mustafar's heat through the soles of his boots. Pursuing Anakin to Coruscant now would be futile. The planet housed the largest garrison of clone troopers in the galaxy, and the first waves of Order 66 had already secured the capital. Above him, Mustafar's atmosphere churned, the facility's exhaust systems pushing streams of industrial compounds into the turbulent clouds. A peculiar relief mingled with his tactical assessment. Some part of him, the Jedi Knight who had trained Anakin, fought beside him, trusted him, had resisted the idea of facing his former apprentice in battle. But it wasn't fear that weighed on him. Anakin had been like a brother to him. That confrontation might still come, but not here, not now. Mustafar's sun penetrated gaps in the industrial haze, its light fracturing across the facility's collection arrays. His shuttle's repulsors engaged with a low hum as he lifted away from the platform. The galaxy's governing structure had transformed overnight, as swift and complete as a computer system's reboot. As he broke through the upper atmosphere, Mustafar's sun painted the cloud tops in frequencies of red and gold. He input coordinates for Polis Massa, hoping Master Yoda's mission would yield better results than his own. Coruscant's orbital defense grid registered Anakin's arrival with electronic deference, automated systems yielding to Imperial protocols. Below, Coruscant's populace absorbed the reality of Imperial rule. Holoscreens broadcast Imperial proclamations, while Senate committees realigned themselves with the new order. Even the advertising displays that once sold luxury products now pulsed with messages of strength and unity under Palpatine's leadership. In their apartment, Padmé shared news of Obi Wan's visit. She spoke of his concerns about the Jedi, about the future, the same anxieties that had kept her awake through Coruscant's nights. Anakin dismissed these warnings as remnants of an obsolete system, his focus fixed on the calculations of power that would secure their future. Anakin sought Palpatine's guidance on ancient knowledge, on powers the Jedi had deemed forbidden. The Emperor presented him with Plagueis' holocron, its surface inscribed with forgotten equations. Data streams filled the chamber, each formula a potential key to mastering life itself. Behind Palpatine's measured instructions, Anakin sensed the careful positioning. Any failure would reflect on the student, not the master. Yet such safeguards proved unnecessary. The medical facility's systems documented the twins' arrival with clinical efficiency. Luke and Leia entered the galaxy as twin beacons in the Force, their signatures distinct yet harmonious. And Padmé lived. The death Anakin thought he had foreseen never came to pass. Palpatine observed their birth with calculated satisfaction, attributing their safe arrival and Padmé's continued survival to Anakin's embrace of darker teachings. 3 standard years reshaped the galaxy. Anakin accumulated influence while Padmé's presence on the Imperial Ruling Council provided strategic continuity with the old order. Their positions interlocked like components in the Empire's expanding machinery. Naboo's summer air carried hints of memory as the Imperial shuttle descended toward Theed. Palpatine had orchestrated this return to where his ascension began, unaware that the Force whispered of endings. The Emperor's guard moved through ancient corridors, their formations perfect, their vigilance complete, yet no defense could shield against what the dark side had already ordained. The official record would note the presence of Malastarian compounds in the Emperor's system, a tragic oversight perhaps, or the last echo of separatist resistance. The truth lay buried beneath layers of political necessity, much like the architecture of Palpatine's rise. Skywalker's assumption of the throne appeared as natural as a system completing its upgrade cycle. None dared question this transition. Anakin settled into position atop the Imperial hierarchy, appreciating how each element had aligned according to design. The galaxy's power structure had completed its transformation, and Emperor Skywalker's influence now extended through every level of its operation. Obi Wan's words on Mustafar embedded themselves in Emperor Skywalker's thoughts. They surfaced during council meetings, during sleepless nights, overlooking Coruscant's illuminated expanse, during moments when young officers reminded him of faces from the temple. The images of younglings in the council chamber refused to fade from his memory. 6 months into his reign, Emperor Skywalker stood before the Senate's holocams. His declaration echoed through the Grand Chamber. The purge of the Jedi Order had been wrong. The actions of a few masters did not justify the eradication of an entire tradition. He had followed Order 66 out of loyalty to the Empire, but that same loyalty now compelled him to speak truth. The HoloNet carried his words across the galaxy. He spoke of masters and knights who had served faithfully for generations, of archivists and healers who had never lifted a lightsaber in anger, of younglings whose only crime was being born with a gift. The purge, he declared, was ended. Any surviving Jedi could return without fear of persecution. Padmé watched from the diplomatic gallery, her presence a reminder of why redemption mattered. The ruling council processed this radical shift with varying degrees of acceptance, but none could deny the impact. Citizens across the Empire witnessed their leader acknowledging past wrongs, choosing truth over power. Months passed. Then, one morning, a familiar presence rippled through the Force. Master Yoda stood in the restored Jedi Temple, his small form carrying the weight of centuries. The ancient master spoke of his own failures, of rigid thinking that had blinded him to Palpatine's manipulations, of not protecting Anakin when guidance was needed most. In Emperor Skywalker's genuine desire for change, Yoda saw the prophecy fulfilled in unexpected ways. As Yoda began rebuilding the Order anew, Anakin kept his distance from the temple. The memories were still too fresh, the corridors too haunted, but he ensured the Jedi would have autonomy to forge their path, free from Imperial interference. The Empire itself transformed. Padmé's influence guided policies toward democracy and representation. Anakin, having achieved his goals of eliminating slavery and bringing order, found himself more interested in meditation than micromanagement. The ruling council evolved into a true legislative body. Systems gained autonomy while maintaining Imperial protection and trade benefits. Reports flowed in from across the galaxy. Former slaves freed, corrupt officials removed, trade routes secured. Citizens spoke of Emperor Skywalker as a leader who listened, who remembered his own journey from chains to freedom. The Force remained a powerful ally, but no longer his master. A decade after Order 66, the Temple Gardens flourished again. Though Emperor Skywalker would never rejoin the Order, many citizens whispered of him as the Jedi's unlikely savior. The man who had destroyed the Order had also ensured its rebirth, though he himself remained apart from it. On a quiet morning in the restored Temple Gardens, two familiar signatures in the Force drew Anakin's attention. Obi Wan and Ahsoka stood among the fountains, their return orchestrated by Yoda's patient diplomacy. Ahsoka moved first, crossing the space between them. Ahsoka made excuses for him because it was easier than losing him forever. Forgiveness came naturally to her, even if she never voiced the justifications aloud. But Obi Wan was different. He had no such illusions, no desire to bend the past into something easier to accept. And Anakin knew his forgiveness would not come so easily. Away from Coruscant's politics, Luke and Leia thrived in Naboo's lake country. Their childhood bore little resemblance to their father's. No sand, no chains, no crushing expectations of prophecy. The twins inherited Padmé's gift for diplomacy and Anakin's connection to the Force, but they remained unburdened by legacy. Their father had shouldered that weight, so they would never have to. Master Yoda began engaging in stock market meditation. They had no legal way to get him.